Hi, and welcome to NicheCraft. My name is Kassi, and I am your host. So today we are going to be learning the half double crochet stitch. And in many ways, it's actually easier than the double crochet, but it'll help you understand if you already know the single crochet and the double crochet stitches. Now, if you're a brand new beginner, then you can still learn this. I just wanted to say that we already did a single crochet tutorial where I taught you how to make a single crochet dishcloth, okay? And we did a double crochet tutorial where I taught you how to make a double crochet dishcloth, okay? And today's video is going to be for this half double crochet stitch, and we're going to make a dishcloth out of that as well. This particular yarn that I'm using, it's a cotton yarn. All you're going to really need to do is get a cotton yarn, and I've been using a J hook. I find that J hooks are the best to learn on because they're bigger. If you want to go with an H or an I, that is completely your call though, okay? I just prefer to teach with a J hook. This is the exact same hook that I was teaching with the other two, but today I'm going to use my J hook with a rubber grip because it's just easier on my hands. So we've got our cotton yarn. I wanted to let you guys know that this is a Lily Sugar and Cream, and it is in the color Coral Sea Ombre. Okay, so that you can pick that up if you want to. I believe that I got this from Michael's, so you could find it there. But again, you can probably find this at Walmart if you have a Walmart, or you can find it online just about anywhere. So let's go ahead and get started. So what you're gonna need is cotton yarn if you're gonna make a dishcloth. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. Just a 4-weight yarn, J hook, 2 stitch markers if you want to be extra careful about the ends being straight. I've got my scissors up here, but you'll only need those in the end. So the very first step is to do the foundation chain, or do a chain, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to first start with a slip knot. How you do that is you pull this short end, you just pull it over like that and make a loop, okay? Then you pull up that loop up here on your on the desk, and you pull another loop from the longer end through while you pull that short end, and there is the slip knot. So I'm going to go ahead and do it the way that I'm used to doing it. It's the same thing. It's just I want to show you what it looks like when you're doing it in your hands instead of very carefully on a table. You make that slip knot, then you put that slip knot on your hook and you tighten it to whichever tightness that you prefer. So we are going to start with a chain of 20, okay? Not counting this chain that is on your hook, because this is your slip knot, okay? So when you chain, you just grab that yarn and pull it through that loop in your slip knot, and there's a 1, okay? Again, 2, and you just keep chaining through until you get to 20. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So we have 20 chains. All right. So what we're going to do next, because in the first video, when you learned a single crochet, I talked about doing the 1 chain turning chain, and with the double crochet we did 2 chains. So you're gonna actually chain 2 more, so it's gonna technically be a chain of 22. Okay, so you have 2 more chains there, and you're gonna skip those first 2 right there, and you're gonna go into the 3rd one, and that's gonna be where your first stitch is, and that is just so that this can line up with the height. Okay, I'm gonna hold it a little bit differently so you can see. Okay, so it's flat like that when you do the stitch, it's going to be about that height. So we have a turning chain that's the same height as the actual stitch that we're going to be making. So just like you did with the double crochet, okay, you've got the loop that's on your hook, the two that count as your turning chain. You're going to yarn over just like a double crochet, and you're going to go through the first loop that's going to be turned into your first stitch, okay? You've got to yarn over the hook, put the hook through that first loop, and then you pull up a loop. Just like the double crochet, you've got 3 chains on your hook. Next, you pull a loop through all 3 chains, and that is a half double crochet. Before we go any further, I'm going to show you, here is the stitch right there. We're going to take a stitch marker for those of you who are beginners and want to make sure that you have very straight edge there. We're going to put a stitch marker there so we can always identify which stitch was our first stitch of this row, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and put another stitch marker out here to represent that we are on the first row. And that way, if you need to go back for whatever reason, you can rewind to when you see that. Okay, so we have our first stitch. Let's go ahead and do it again. Yarn over, put your crochet hook through that loop, pull up a loop. Now you've got 3 loops on your hook. Then you pull through 3, and that is your second half double crochet. Yarn over, pull up a loop. You've got 3 loops on your hook. Now, if it seems kind of difficult to pull up 3 loops, pull through 3 loops after you're used to doing it through 2, all you have to do is hook onto that and then turn your hook so that that hook is facing downward, and then you pull through. That way that hook is not going to hook onto any of the other stitches, and you won't get caught up in that way. And just because this is a really good example, if you are concerned about accidentally going into the same stitch twice, all you have to do is pull the work, and you can see how these stitches have been stretched a little bit, and so you know that the next stitch is this smaller one, okay? So you yarn over, put the crochet hook in that loop from your chain, pull up a loop. You've got 3 loops on your hook, okay? And then pull through all 3. Okay, again, yarn over, pull up a loop, then pull through all 3. And this is how you make the half double crochet stitch. Very, very easy, very simple. There's a little bit of the crochet stitch. If I can show you in the stitch definition, we're going to compare it to the single crochet here and the double crochet here. So in that single crochet, you've got this horizontal loop and then these 2 loops like that, right? In the half double, you've got the 2 loops like that and the horizontal loop, and then you've got the stitch on the top. So it's this kind of really nice crochet stitch that has that line like that underneath your stitch, and I think that looks really pretty and elegant. And this will wash your stitches just as easily as any other stitch. We use cotton because cotton does not melt when it comes in contact with extreme heat, and oftentimes we'll have our dish rags on the counter, and we might take something hot out of the oven, and if we are not using a cotton yarn or a yarn that is meant for linen, then we could melt the yarn. Acrylic yarn is made of plastics, so it can actually melt if it comes into contact with too much heat. And wool is prone to felting. So when it comes in contact with water, it will felt. So we use cotton so that we can get those dishes clean, or whatever it is that we're going to wash. It makes a nice texture for washing dishes. You can also use it for face cloths and all of that kind of good stuff. You can make clothes out of this too if you want to make a wearable. It's just for me, this lily and or the sugar and cream or the peaches and cream, the really affordable cotton is a little bit too scratchy for me on my skin, but of course cotton is a great fiber to work with if you're making a wearable, especially if it's something real lacy and lightweight for the summer. All right, so if you're following along, I don't want to be a broken record, but it's kind of my job for this tutorial. We yarn over, which means you put the yarn over the hook, okay? We put the hook into the next chain. We pull up a loop, so we have 3 loops on our hooks. We have the original loop, we have the yarn over, and then we have the loop that we just pulled up. Then you pull through all 3. You pull 1 loop all through 3. Okay? Yarn over, pull up a loop. You've got 3 loops on your hook, and then you pull through 3. All 3 of them. We're just going to keep going until we get to the end. All right. And I will show you something at the very end here so you can see why I said that original slip knot is not a chain. It does not count as a chain. It's because as you're working through it, that slip knot will get smaller and smaller, and then you've got that little bit there at the end there. So we're going to be weaving this in at the end. So again, since we are making a taller chain or a taller stitch than the single crochet, we're going to chain up 2 to turn. So we've got 2 stitches or 2 chains and then turn. That's called your turning chain. All right, and then you yarn over, go under that last stitch that you created, pull up a loop. You've got 3 loops on your hook, and then pull a loop through all 3 of those. And since we want to make sure that we have straight edges, we're going to go ahead and put a stitch marker in that first stitch, because when we come to the end of the next row, that's going to be the last stitch in the row. We want to make sure that we go into that stitch for our last stitch and not that turning chain. Otherwise, we'll be increasing. All right, so half double crochet row 2. Yarn over, pull up a loop. You've got 3 loops on your hook, pull through 3. You'll notice that the second row is going to go a lot faster. It's because you've got something to hold on to with that non-dominant hand. All right, yarn over, go through the stitch, yarn, pull up a loop, and then pull through all 3. And if you are able to find that string from the middle instead of using the outside, you can just pull it out like this, and it's much less likely to get tangled up. You can go around from the outside though if that's what you want to do. It's, both ways are just as fine. Okay, so you can see me doing it here. We're gonna talk you through it again. Yarn over, go through those top 2 loops right there, pull up a loop. Okay, you've got 3 loops on your hook, and pull through all 3. And that is your half double crochet. All right. And for those of you who are watching who don't know how to double crochet or feel like maybe this is very like, wait, isn't this a double crochet? I'll show you what a double crochet is, but this is not a half double crochet. This stitch is a double crochet. A double crochet is when you yarn over, you put the loop through that stitch, you pull up a loop, and now you have 3 loops on your hook, just like a half double crochet. But a double crochet is where you pull through 2 and then you pull through 2 again. So you can see the difference between that stitch, right? So that is the difference. But we're doing the half double crochet, so we're going to continue on in the same manner. Yarn over, pull up a loop. You have 3 loops, pull through all 3. And that is as simple as it gets, folks. Again, if you are having trouble pulling through all 3 loops, go ahead and turn your hook so it's downward, and it's going to be much less likely to snag, okay? Something that I just kind of do naturally when I'm pulling through more than 2 loops. So this half double crochet stitch, especially if you've got the double and the single down, goes pretty fast. It also works up a lot faster than that single crochet, but it's a little bit more sturdy or stiff as a stitch than the double crochet. Because see, that double crochet is kind of, it can feel kind of flimsy. It can even get some, it can even be a little lacy if you do it a certain way. But this single crochet is a lot more stiff, So this half double crochet is a nice medium right between those. And you'll also find, because this loop right here forms this little kind of ridge, you'll also find that it naturally forms a little bit of a rib as you are making your cloth. So now we are at the very last stitch right here. I'm going to take out, it's right here. I just want to show you guys so you can see. This is a stitch right here. So we are going to take that out. This is the last stitch. And go through underneath both of those, pull up a loop, and pull through all 3. Now we're going to do the turning chain of 2 chains. We're going to turn our work. Then we're going to put a stitch right back into that same stitch. You yarn over, go under the stitch. Yarn over, go under the stitch, pull up a loop. There's 3 loops on your hook. Pull through all 3, and that is a half double crochet. I'm going to go ahead and replace the stitch marker, so we will be sure to not mistake that turning chain for a stitch. And I'm going to continue on. Now, I said this in my last 2 videos, but I'm going to say it again. You do not have to use a stitch marker to keep track of that last stitch. Even if you're a beginner, it's just something that I wasn't taught when I was first starting out, and I was one of those people that could not tell the difference at first between that last stitch and the turning chain. So I would add stitches every single time by working into that turning chain thinking it was a stitch. Once you get really accustomed to the difference between what a stitch looks like and what that turning chain looks like, that's not going to be a problem. You won't need to use those stitch markers, but those stitch markers can really, really help guide your work. It might seem like an extra step. I mean, it is an extra step, but that extra step can pay off a lot if you find yourself getting frustrated with the way that your work is looking. All right. So again, it's a very, I think it's a very easy stitch. It's a very simple stitch. But a lot of people miss it when they're just starting out. A lot of people do the single crochet and the double crochet, and they miss this half double crochet. And there's a lot of stuff that you can do with the half double crochet that you can't do with the other 2. And again, it also works up pretty quick. It's something that would be appropriate to make a garment out of. In fact, any stitch is appropriate to make a garment or even a blanket out of, that's fine. But for now, we're just learning the technique of the stitch and how to do it. Okay, so we're almost to the last stitch, if you're following along with me and going at the same speed. So again, I'm going to yarn over, go under both of those loops, pull through 1. So we have 3 loops, and then pull through all 3. Since we are at the end of this row, and that reminds me, I didn't put in one of those when okay, then you chain up 2, all right, turn your work, yarn over, go into that last stitch you just made, pull up a loop, then pull through all 3. Then you can put this stitch marker right back in or your own if you're working on it, so that you remember that that is the first stitch. And then we are on row 4. So I'm going to go ahead and put another stitch marker out there to represent row 4. And again, you'll see that it works up pretty fast. Okay? Yarn over, go under that stitch, pull up a loop, then go through all 3. Very simple. Now, one thing about the half double crochet is that if you're working it and you're looking at your work like this, it can look like that's your stitch right there. Okay, and that's not your stitch. You have to turn it to where you can see those 2 loops at the top. Okay, otherwise it might look like that's your stitch right there. All right, and that the way that that looks like an extra stitch like that is something that you can use in other stitches to create some really beautiful patterns that can look like it's knitted. But we're just focusing on the half double crochet right now. You yarn over, go underneath that stitch, pull up a loop, then pull through all 3. Just getting some more slack here. All right, so there was something that I was thinking about earlier today, and that was the fact that I do not, that I don't have very good organization on this table that I'm working on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some nesting baskets, and I thought, you know what, I have taught them everything they need to know to make some nesting baskets. So the next video that's going to go up is going to be how to make a basket. All right, and if you want to get prepared for that, what you're going to need is, I'm going to be using this, now this is Bernat Softy Chunky, okay, so it's called Chunky because it is a size 6, okay, it's a size 6. So what you're going to want is you're going to want an acrylic yarn that is size 6, all right? And I'm going to use 2 colors that complement each other. I can't find the other color, but it's just a darker purple. And you can get this at any craft store, even at Walmart. You can order it on the internet and all of that. And I am going to be using this to make some nesting baskets, and then I'll have some space on this table to put extra gadgets in it, and I will have that right at my disposal. Very easy to get to. And you and I will both make a basket that way. And you can make a basket out of a single crochet or a double crochet. It's going to be pretty sturdy either way. Or I'm sorry, a single crochet or a half double crochet. Now you could even make it out of a double crochet if you want, but that's going to be a little slouchy. If you like your basket slouchy, then that's fine. And chain 2. Okay, we're at the end of this 4th row. We're going to turn, and I'm going to put this out here to represent that we're on the 5th row now. Yarn over, go under that last stitch that you made, pull up a loop, and then pull through all 3. We know that that's the first stitch. So we're going to take this stitch marker and we're going to put it right back into that stitch. So anyway, as I was saying, I would really like to show you guys how to make a basket. I think that that would be a really good beginner project. So the next video you see by me is going to be a tutorial on that. And if this is the first video of mine that you're watching, know that I have a whole lot of tutorials coming up. I'm starting out with the basics, but I am going to be posting at least 1 video a day or more and teaching all the basic stitches. And once I get past that, then I'll start teaching you how to make some of these really, really elegant projects that I've been working on. And you'll be able to do them so easily, you're not going to believe how easy it is. Because you'll find that all you really need to know is the single, the double, and the half double to do just about anything. And you can also chain. You know, chaining is actually used in a lot of real lacy fabrics. So that's just about the easiest thing you can do. And don't get discouraged if this is taking you a while to learn. It's muscle memory for me, so it's really easy for me to go faster. But for you, it's going to take a while to build up that muscle memory. Just like learning anything, you'll get the hang of it, and then it'll just keep going like a breeze. And I'm going to walk you through this last row here. Then I'm going to go off camera and finish this dishcloth. I'm going to let you guys go ahead and finish the dishcloth for you guys. And then I'll come back on and I'll show you how to weave in the ends. So we're going to bind off and weave in the ends at the very end. Now for you, I'm not going to be gone very long, but for me, I'm working in real time, so I'm going to go off camera, make some more rows until we get a square. Okay, and let's see here. This was 9 rows. Let me see. I'll tell you how many rows I think we'll have to do. Let's see. So I would say I'm going to be doing at least probably 6 more rows of this. Okay, and when I'm done with that, I'm going to come back. So if you don't want to, if you don't want to think real hard, just make 6 more rows for a total of 10 rows, and then we will come back and we will bind off and weave in these ends so that you won't be able to see them, and then you will be fully trained in knowing how to half double crochet. I'm really, really excited about you guys knowing these because I really cannot wait to show you all the great things you can make with this. It's just going to be so wonderful. So I'll be right back. As I said, I am back, and I'm not certain exactly how many rows I did. I think it was 6, and I have 3 more stitches left. I'm going to show you how to finish off and weave in your ends. So 3 more stitches, and again, yarn over, go through both loops, that's that whole stitch, pull up a loop, you've got 3 loops on your hook, and then pull through all 3. You do that again, then pull through all 3, then you do that the last time in that last stitch right there, pull through all 3, just like that. Now what I do is I pull a loop through there, a bigger one, and I take my scissors, snip it, then I pull this tight, and it makes a little knot. It's pretty much not going to be coming out, okay? So you can just leave it like this if you don't care about how it looks. But if you want it nice and neat, what you can do is you can get a yarn needle or a darning needle. Doesn't matter if it's plastic or steel or metal or whatever. Just put that yarn in the eye of the hook there. Then you can weave it underneath these little loops here that are those stitches, okay? So I'm taking this needle and I'm putting it through those loops, okay? If you can see that. It's going up underneath there. We're going to pull it out right here because that's where that color changes. And for those of you who are wondering, this is called variegated yarn, okay? So there's a couple of different colors that you can choose from. You can choose from variegated yarn, which the colors change really fast like this. You can get the solid colors. This is a solid color yarn. Just one color. Then you can get the self-striping yarns, and there's more than just those. But the self-striping yarn basically makes stripes as you go, and that's really all you really need to know about that. There's some that'll actually make patterns if you knit it with a specific gauge. And those are kind of cool, but it doesn't come out as good with crochet. Although it doesn't look bad, it just doesn't come out as good as with knit. And I could show you how to do that. I could show you how to knit, but I just don't feel like I am as good at knitting as I am at crochet. But maybe if this channel takes off, we will be able to do that too. I'll be able to go into some knitting and do some knitting tutorials. All right, so again, I just pulled it through there, and then I'm using this needle to pull the rest of it through. Looks like that little tail doesn't want to come out. There we go. And you just snip it off right here. That little piece is going to just go right into those, underneath those loops, and you're not going to be able to tell. So here we have our half double crochet dishcloth. Okay. And again, we did the single crochet and we did the double crochet. This is a half double crochet. Something kind of neat about the half double crochet is that it creates this little ridge right here. And again, you can use this as a styling pattern, as a styling technique when you start learning some of the other stitches. But just be aware that that's one of those kind of elegant designs of this particular stitch. And I'm going to do exactly what I did before by arranging everything so nicely. I'm going to get some more stitch markers out so that people know everything that they'll need to use to make this cloth. And this was the first image that you saw before you clicked on this video. How about that? Thank you so much. If you like this video, please like. It helps me know that I am doing a good job. Subscribe if you want to learn more stitches. We are going to go into so many stitches on this channel, you're not going to believe it. I've got multiple videos coming out each day. Okay, so we are going into it, deep diving into crochet with NicheCraft. My name's Kassi, and I will see you soon.